Hello and welcome to this review of my Iqunix Magi65 and 96 Pro keyboards. These were both sent in by Iqunix. First they sent me this 65% one, and then right after the unboxing they asked me if I wanted to take a look at this new 96% model, and I told them, well, why didn't you send me this one instead, referring to my preference for bigger form factors, and so they sent this as well, so I can do a double review on them. They also do a 75% version, by the way. I should preface this by saying I'm not normally a fan of low-profile keyboards, but I like to review some occasionally because lots of people ask me for recommendations on them, and a fair few of my viewers like them as well, so even if not for me, I think it's useful to do them for other people at least. So, like I said, of course size is a matter of opinion, and though I'm much happier with this 96% version, I'm sure there are plenty of others that will like the small one instead. That said, I've always thought that 96% was kind of a poor compromise, as jamming all the keys together here makes it much harder to find all of the keys compared to a standard full size. Now, I get it, it's because they added this part over here, which I'll get back to in a bit, and this takes up more space on the right side, so in order to not turn it into a complete plank, they squeeze the keys together a bit here. But personally, and again this is just an opinion, but I myself would have instead put this cluster on the left side. I mean, a volume roller and these controls here work just as well, if not better actually, on the left I think, and chosen the standard full-size layout instead. I think that would have made this a lot more user-friendly without sacrificing anything useful. Of course, you may wonder why you would go for a low-profile yet full-size keyboard, as one is typically a benefit to portability while the other is not. I mean, this doesn't fit in a bag that easily, and it's not even that light or anything. It weighs over 1.3 kilos. Even the small one is more than a kilo. Or in imperial units.
That son of a bitch down there just ought to call along like us astronaut. I ain't bullshitting you.
It's much denser than you would give it credit for, and yet they absolutely tote portability as a feature on their website. But then again, I found people tend to like low-profile keyboards for more than just being able to lug them around. I think it's also a typing angle thing, plus low-profile switches have a different feel to them compared to high-profile ones. To give my really unsalted opinion, I think low-profile boards are just a holdover from people getting used to those awful Apple aluminium shits. I destroyed one of these in another review back in the day, years ago. These feel terrible, are highly susceptible to failure, and like most Apple products are vastly overpriced. I think we buy them for our office at the university. We pay something like 150 to 200 euros each for them, which is a complete joke. You can get a really nice Hall effect keyboard for that, rather than this pig iron rubber dome abomination. But, as is unfortunately the case with many Apple products, they tend to influence a lot of people, and so we get this. And as if to drive my point home, it's laid out for Apple by default rather than a normal computer. Eesh, I'm being cranky today. Anyway, this keyboard isn't that bad, I just wanted to vent a bit. So coming back to this part here, that's kind of the signature bit of this keyboard, I guess. You can also get the keyboards without it, those are the non-pro models, but obviously I wanted this version, which makes it a bit more interesting. So here is a volume roller, somewhat of a rarity on low-profile boards, come to think of it. Here is a decorative light strip, and below are 4 media keys. Now, the legends on this thing are completely useless. You'd think this cross means mute or something, but it actually means stop or play. This circle is mute instead. And while this looks like home, and that means... I have no idea actually. The manual clearly shows the icons for fast forward and fast backward. Now, I have no idea why anyone would find those two things useful, but it's not even true. It doesn't do that at all as far as I can tell. In fact, according to a diagnostic tool I use, this outputs OXB0 and OXB1, which are next track and previous track instead, but those seem to do nothing as well. And if you connect it to VIA, it says that the top ones are actually mute and play, and the bottom ones next on the left and previous on the right. So what the ever-living fuck is going on here is definitely beyond me. Speaking of VIA, for some unfathomable reason it is compatible with VIA, but it doesn't work with it out of the box. So you download this Magi96 VIA firmware updater thing, which looks incredibly bootleg, though in all fairness everything to do with firmware tends to look like a 5-year-old made it on some obscure 80s computer, which is also why QMK is so horrible. Anyway, that doesn't do a damn thing, so you look at their very badly written and incomplete VIA setup guide, which I couldn't even figure out at first, and then it turns out that you need to download a completely different file and set that up on the VIA site, though they don't tell you to do that. Maybe that's why I'm so cranky today. If there's one thing that gets my blood to a boil, it's technology fucking around like this. Now, finally, going back to that cluster thing, this here below can be opened, like so, to find the wireless dongle for it. Normally these things are shelved at the bottom of the keyboard, in the housing or something, but obviously with this being a low-profile model, there's no room for it there, which is why they stuck it here. This plate is held to the case pretty firmly by 2 magnets, like so. I get it, but like I said previously, I think this whole thing should have been on the left instead. The keycaps are inverse die sub, with the exception of this optional escape key one, which appears to be either metal or metal paint. In either case, it's all over the cap, including the underside, but considering the sound it makes, I think it's real metal. They're spherical topped and made out of high purity PBT, as they call it, though they don't claim how pure this actually is. So of course this immediately made me very suspicious, so I did an acetone test and it was not low enough to actually dissolve in it, thankfully. But personally I always mistrust vague claims like this, so I hope they update this on their website. Now, one thing that I like that they did is that they sloped the keycap sides rather lazily, which results in a reasonable separation between the tops of the keycaps. Quite often these low-profile boards tend to have keycap edges that are very steep, and thus they're close together, which can easily result in mispressed keys. But it's not too bad here. I think they could have taken it a little bit further even, but still, it's nice to have. Despite the keycap legends not being transparent, you can see the backlight quite well actually, and it looks pretty smooth and well bundled. I think this is pretty high quality RGB overall. Also, I think the switches help a bit with distributing the light below the caps, which is why so much of it leaks out from under them, which is a good thing, by the way, if you like backlighting. Speaking of the switches, they're Kailh branded and they're called gold-red switches, despite not being gold or red. They've got a fairly standard 40-gram operating force and the 2.8mm throw, so they do really feel low profile, though not as short a throw as those Apple shits, which don't even feel like switches really. They're okay, just cheap, low-profile switches really, pretty much exactly what you would expect. Sound-wise, it sounds extremely muffled, probably because it has about 1 billion layers of foam and poron inside it, and low-profile boards virtually have no space for sound to develop anyway. This is exactly the kind of sound that people who don't like the sound of keyboards tend to like, which is the majority of keyboard enthusiasts nowadays, so I think this is a very shrewd move on Iqunix's part. Prices range from $140 for the little one to $180 for the big one. Considering it's made out of anodized CNC'd aluminium, I'd say this isn't too surprising. And like I said, it's very well made physically, though I think there are still some improvements that they could do for it. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.